Okay, so I'm going to be right beside the highway. There's wind, all kinds of factors. So there's no real guarantee that this video is going to turn out at all. And honestly, it kind of didn't. There were a handful of problems with the footage that I captured at this location. First of all, I was zoomed really far in, and I shoot on this, which is a Canon PowerShot. It's kind of old. It does not have great inner stabilization, so it made the footage kind of shaky sometimes. On top of that, there was a lot of wind, so the audio would sound like this. Your faith is for you. Your faith is supposed to mold you. Also, take a shot every time I say it's really windy in any of my videos. Really windy, so hopefully my voice is coming through. A bit windy, so that's become like a common thing in all of them. The biggest problem with this footage, however, is that I'm only kind of making my point. I have a, let's say, hyperactive mind. So that means that I'm only making the points that I want to make about half of the time. So the way that I'm going to try to make this video hopefully more coherent is by cutting myself in from here, my apartment, and hopefully tying all the pieces together. It's still going to be a little all over the place, but I kind of like that, so try to keep up. I've passed this power plant many times driving from North Carolina to Arizona for college with my best friend, and it always had this kind of otherworldly feel, so I guess maybe that's the draw, is that it feels like this otherworldly place, which is appropriate because today I want to talk about mysticism, psychosis, and the unconscious. When I was a little kid, I was growing up in church, and I was immediately drawn towards mysticism. My reasoning for that is because everybody around me talked about their faith in such a positive and strong way that I thought that there was no way they could be that faithful if they had not had a mystical experience. I needed Jesus Christ to show up to my room and prove to me that he existed. I used to pray for that all the time. My fascination with mysticism continued for a very long time. It continued well into college, and when I was about 19 years old, I think maybe I just turned 20, I fell into a state of psychosis. Disclaimer here, I was not diagnosed officially with psychosis, so maybe it's a little dramatic to say that I fell into a state of psychosis, but I'm about to explain myself a little bit more in the coming footage. I just wanted to put that out there. Now, there were a lot of factors to this. I was young, I was trying to figure out my faith, I was surrounded by a lot of people who were also trying to figure out their Christian faith, and there was kind of this phenomenon that we were being followed by demons. I'm guessing if you didn't go to a religious school at all, that doesn't mean anything to you. That's probably the most insane thing you could have heard, but it was very regular for us. So what I mean here is that the communities that I grew up in and around all tended to believe in actual literal demons. The headspace that I fell into, as far as I know, was not common. So that's what I mean when I say this was very common. And what happened was I was already looking for a mystical sort of experience, and I had a lot of people around me talking about spiritual warfare. I was getting the worst sleep of my life, and I fell into this state where I thought that a demonic cult was following me. I had an exact car that I thought they drove, and I was certain that they had their eyes on me. Here's the thing. I had also had experiences that I thought were mystical. I had seen things that weren't there while I was in the car, while I was by myself, while I was with other people, and I would hold on to them, and I would say, I think that was a mystical experience. I think that I'm seeing a vision of my future, of the other world, the other place. I'm seeing the other dimension that God exists within. So I still hold to some of these things. I did see things at that time, and I still see things even to this day. The difference is my beliefs about those images and visions. Back then I thought they were visions. My beliefs surrounding those things that I saw and see have completely changed. And that really piled up until eventually I went, okay, I might be insane. Actually, maybe I'm insane. I might be crazy. And it sent me down this road of completely deconstructing my faith. There are many reasons why I deconstructed my faith. I've talked about them before, but that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I started to think, oh, maybe this just isn't true at all. And that led me to a place where I just did not believe in anything at all. I completely threw it all away. I spent a year as an atheist, at least a year, and I just rejected it. And that's not a bad thing, actually. I'm going to be controversial and say that atheism is not a bad place to be, especially if you're someone who suffers from believing in a God outside of yourself. If you believe that there's a God outside of you that you're always having to appease and always having to see the world through God's eyes, it can really get to you. It can really put you in a bad place. And that's what happened to me. For me, believing in a God outside of myself, in my case, high above me in heaven, looking down from his divine perfection, judging everything I say, do, or even think, that became very unhealthy. Ingmar Bergman, the director of famous movies like The Seventh Seal, Persona, and Fanny and Alexander, has a great quote about this.
It was a feeling of something that is perfect, that is the most extreme perfect that exists, and in comparison yes. To that, I always must feel like a snake.
As a kid, a complex was created in my mind that made me feel like I always had to prove myself as worthy of God's love and grace and compassion. There's a lot more to say about this topic, but honestly I could make an entire video about that, and I probably will at some point. I'll sum all this up by just saying, identifying as an atheist was a generally positive experience for me. I'm not saying all religion is bad, I'm not saying spirituality is bad. And the reason I'm not saying spirituality is bad is because I've actually looped back around to having a sense of faith and spirituality, but it's very different. I fall more so into the kind of Jungian camp where I think that if someone tells me that they had a mystical vision, I actually believe them. I fully believe that they did have that. But what I've come to think of that as is their unconscious mind projecting their innermost being in front of them. It's the kind of spirituality where I actually don't know. It's right between theism and atheism, but the experience that I have of my personal faith is what matters to me and who it creates me to be. It forms me. This is a worldview that really works for me, more so than any other worldview or belief that I've held throughout my entire life. When I began to think of these visions and experiences that I had as a younger person, even the experience of feeling like I was being stalked by a demonic cult, as projections of my unconscious mind to my conscious mind, I felt a lot better about it. Because to me, that just meant that there was something imbalanced in my head and in my body. There were these repressed feelings and fears that were making themselves known in visceral ways. When I started to think this all comes from me, when I shifted my mindset to not see it as engaging with a supernatural spiritual realm, but rather as something that was coming from my own head, it really empowered me and made me feel much more confident and at peace with what I was experiencing. And it gives me a framework and an understanding of what I might be experiencing, and has made these experiences much easier to handle and understand. Your faith is for you. Your faith is supposed to mold you and how you move around in the world. And my hope is that my spirituality and my faith make me a more humble person and a more tender person and a more merciful person, so I can understand everyone around me, understand myself better, and just have peace. But not just peace for me. I think for faith and spirituality to mean anything at all, it should be motivating me to care more about my neighbor. There are a lot of things that are happening in our world that I can hardly wrap my mind around. Things that should frankly make us all horrified. And I think that's the only way that faith and spirituality mean anything at all. So it was a journey, an Odyssey, I guess. We kind of started in one place and ended up in another, but I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you'll care. I think we should all really care. Now I'm walking towards you. Don't get nervous. No, don't get nervous. Come on. I don't bite. Honestly, maybe I will bite. Maybe you should be nervous. You should be nervous.